Okay, so we have an extra bonus episode for you guys all, as there is some huge news that has just come up in the world of comics, and we're going to be talking about it. In case you're new to the channel, to the podcast, I am Joseph Jasonowski, and I am joined by
Katie Markham, and we have some breaking news for you. And be sure to subscribe if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of all things comic book news.
That's right. So we talked a while ago on the podcast about DC and Marvel reprinting the DC Marvel crossover comics, which was big news at the time. But it turns out these did ridiculously well. They kind of sold out everywhere. If you were not aware of that, they did very, very well. And at Comics Pro, which once again we were not invited to this year.
Rudely.
What the
hell? It gets ruder every year.
It does. It genuinely does. But in any case, some reps for DC and Marvel, particularly DC General Manager and SVP Anne Wang DePais, announced that DC and Marvel will be releasing 2 new crossovers to come out this year. They will both be one-shots, and they will be titled Marvel DC and DC Marvel. Marvel DC to be published by Marvel, and DC Marvel to be published by DC. We get basically no information on this other than the fact that the editors enjoyed working together and thought that this was a big white whale type thing to be able to do. So that's all we have on it in terms of details, but I think we should still talk about it.
Because this is huge. DC, I don't think they've crossed over since I
believe it's been 20 something years.
Yeah, it was definitely at least 20 years. I don't even remember if it was in the 2000s. Was that in the 2000s?
I think it was 2001 or something. I think it's the very early 2000s.
So this is huge. They don't really fuck with that anymore. No. I mean, why? I couldn't say personally.
I have a theory. If you want my theory, James Gunn, ever since he took over the DC Studios, has been talking a lot about wanting to grease the wheels on a movie crossover. And with him having his hands very involved in everything, we've seen his influence in DC comics already. I'm wondering if he maybe put some pressure on the DC Comics team to try to get this to happen, to kind of test the waters on what a DC Marvel crossover, would be, or how it would do if, this is maybe part of his plan to try to get something on a bigger stage.
I can definitely see that. I mean,
Pat.
Well, yeah, of course. I can see where you're coming from with that. I think it also it makes so much sense for them to do crossover things. The fact
Marvel
that they
just doesn't do crossovers in general, though. That's the truth of it. DC crossovers with everybody. I don't think it's shocking that DC was willing to do this. DC crosses over with everybody. I don't know when the last time Marvel did a non-Disney property crossover was.
I could be wrong. Are Alien and Predator Disney properties?
Predator 100% is a Disney property.
Maybe Alien is as well.
Property. I don't know if Aliens is, but I assume it. I think they're both Fox properties that are now,
that
Disney
tracks,
properties ever since the merger or the buyout or whatever.
Yeah, but I understand why they don't, especially now. I feel like my general sense is that before the MCU, DC was very much kind of the dominant comic thing, if we're not counting X-Men and Spider-Man, which are obviously huge properties. But I feel like most of the cultural consciousness around comics
culturally
was exactly. And so I understand why, back then it may have been more advantageous for Marvel to do this. And why you might see, do you remember the Amalgam comics?
Yeah, the ones I believe that was the last DC Marvel crossover was Amalgam.
I think so. But that's, I think, why you see a lot of those being Batman and Wolverine, Wonder Woman and Storm. It's using those big characters, Dick Grayson and Spider-Man. Is really cute. I love that issue. It's so cute.
I'm just still mad because I thought Iron Lantern was the worst crossover for Green Lantern. Why Iron
I don't know.
Man? That makes no freaking sense.
What's the Captain America Superman one called? It's not Super Patriot, because that's
it's not Super Patriot.
A Youngblood character or something.
That's just a Marvel character.
Oh. In any case, I think that one is the lamest of them all.
Oh no, sorry, Super Patriot is a Savage Dragon. I was thinking of no, what Iron Patriot. I was thinking of Iron Patriot. That was what I was thinking of. Super Patriot is a Savage Dragon character.
Yeah, not Youngblood Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
Same diff. Not really. I love Savage Dragon. That's fine. But I think that it would be cool if they did something like creative and weird like that. But I'm assuming that's not what they're gonna like.
The fact
come
that
back
they're titled Marvel DC and DC Marvel indicates that they're not going to be particularly as creative. Like a lot of people have been theorizing of like, what couple characters do you think will cross over in each book? I'm like, I don't think that's what's happening with the books being titled. Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to give you my
Please do.
guess. Again, just specifically based on the titles, because I don't think the books have ever been titled anything like this. Like the collected things have, but they've been much more like Batman Wolverine or like Amalgam.
I don't think
like
so. I think that their big one was either called DC and Marvel or DC versus Marvel or something.
There was a DC versus Marvel, yes, and then there was also I think Justice League versus Avengers. No, it was Justice League versus Avengers and Teen Titans versus X-Men were the versus books. There might have been a DC Marvel one.
Because I know that there's one where they did the same thing where it was like DC put out one called like DC versus Marvel and Marvel did like Marvel versus DC.
I know there's, but in any case, this indicates to me that they're going to be like big picture things. But I think whether it's just big Marvel DC and DC Marvel, my guess is they will both be anthology books with shorter stories done by different creative teams.
I think that super duper tracks. And I think, I don't know how, because I know that Marvel does like the Marvel Voices, but I haven't read that, so I don't know if they're like actual anthology titles.
Yeah.
But like DC is so big on their anthology titles these days that I think that's a really good pull. It still leaves a lot to be, speculated on with like what the tone of it's going to be, what they're going to like.
Well, the tone can be all over the place if it's anthologies.
Yeah. But you would think that like if it's, because I'm trying to think of because there must be some sort of internal logic to how this is happening, right? And like with the multiverse being what it is, I think that it's actually makes it harder to do that, because it's like, okay, so then are we saying that there's two multiverses that somehow exist together? And at that point, why is that? How do we say that that's not just one giant multiverse? And so like I think it is a really funky thing to do in terms of like in-universe justification.
I think it's weird that it's. I'm just thinking. I'm stuck on it being two one-shots called Marvel DC and DC Marvel. Because like, if it was just going to be Marvel DC, right? I'd expect it to be a longer thing than a two-issue thing. If you're going to do like a big thing with like a story going throughout it, big event of like how the multiverses collide. I would expect that to be like a bigger thing where there would be more issues. Two one-shots. I would expect it not to be titled Marvel DC. I would expect it to be like, oh, these characters are going to cross over across these two different one-shots, and we'll do those as self-contained stories. So I'm stuck on the format being anything other than an anthology. And the thing is, if they do it as an anthology, they can essentially just say, this is not canon, and we're going to make these stories as if they were in the same world, and then we don't have to deal with the multiverse,
That's fair. It's a really weird ground, and I think that it's very interesting to think about what that'll mean going forward. Like, if it does well, are they going to try to do that more?
I'm going to ask you something, because I remember the original, like, Avengers Justice League being such a mess of, like, it took years for them to make. They kept, like, changing things, like, because they had greenlit it so early before they had really figured out anything plot-wise and everything. I want to ask you, do you think they know what these two issues are right now? Or do you think they've just decided they're doing crossover books and that's why it's just Marvel DC and DC Marvel? That if they just decide, we'll do crossovers, we'll do a one-shot coming out through each of us, and they have not decided what they are yet?
I do think that is a distinct possibility, and what my little like hope would be, I feel like there have been a couple of talent swaps happening. Yeah. Like Jason Aaron and Kelly Thompson coming over from Marvel.
Greg Capullo went to Marvel from DC. Yeah.
So like more. I think that if
Zdarsky jumped back and forth very aggressively.
Yeah, I feel like Zdarsky has never been like a held man, because he also does like indie books and stuff.
No, but he was like he's had exclusive contracts with both. Like he was Marvel. He went to DC for Batman, and then like yeeted out of Batman, and is now, I believe, he's doing the new Captain America book. I believe now is what
he's vibing. Just jumped on to. He's vibing. So like I think that if they're able to tap into those like crossover points, that will be a really strong way to do it.
That leads me though to my question for you, which is like, what do you want to see creative team wise? Assuming we're not doing anthology and we're not going to like grab a bunch of people, like who would be your creative team, or up to 2 creative teams if you think you should have one on each issue. But my guess would actually be that with it being 2 one-shots, that they might do the same creative team on both if it's going to be a connected.
They very much could. I think that Zdarsky and Jimenez would be great, like Zdarsky and Jorge Jimenez. They did their Batman run together, and I just selfishly want to see Jorge Jimenez draw every single character ever.
And he's staying on Batman though, so he's probably he's gonna be busy.
But he's kept busy before, because he was doing World's Finest, Batman, Shazam, and I think one other book all at the same time.
He was not doing Shazam. Shazam was Dan Mora.
Wasn't he originally on Shazam?
No, that's Dan Mora. He was originally on Shazam.
Oh, you're right. So, I'm not gonna lie, the 2 of them draw such beautiful characters. I do sometimes conflate them in my little noggin.
Was he also on World's? Because I know Dan Mora was on World's Finest.
No, I think I'm combining my boys, but I think Dan Mora was doing something else wild at the time.
Dan Mora always does 2 books at a time. Yeah. I don't know if Jorge Jimenez.
Maybe not.
He very well could. I know he's been on Batman though for like 3 years, 4. He's out-survived like 4 writers on Batman. He's
bonkers.
Yeah, usually the writers stick around much longer than the artists. Jorge Jimenez though has a death grip on Batman. He can't be on
it anymore because it's Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee now.
No, he's on it though after that. They announced
they bring him back. I love that for him.
And he's coming back after Hush.
Honestly, good for him.
Right.
Because he does such a good job. So I think that Zdarsky and Jimenez would be a really good team to put on.
I'm down for that.
I'm trying to think of what other like kind of points of crossover there are.
I feel like a lot of people are going to be calling for Hickman, would be my guess, because I feel like Hickman's the big boy on the block.
I mean, but I feel like one of the reasons that Hickman is so good is because it feels like he like knows these characters really intimately.
Yeah.
And like maybe he doesn't feel the same about DC. I feel like that could be a little lopsided, you know.
I'm gonna give you my writer poll.
Hit me with it.
Philip Kennedy Johnson doing Hulk, doing big books at DC as well. He did Action Comics. What is he on now at DC? Actually, does he stop doing Green Lantern War Journal? He's still doing something at DC. But the point is, he's done very big books for both of them at the same time. He's not exclusive to either company right now. I feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson. I
think he's a good pull.
Good slot in there. I do think Dan Mora or Jorge Jimenez should be the artist. Like that, because like unless you can get Greg Capullo on it, in which case,
right, you've got him. But
or somehow get Jim Lee to go straight from Hush into that. The poor man,
dude. He's like, okay, I will coordinate this entire merger, and I will draw the X-Men again. Oh my god.
Honestly, it's just an X-Men Batman crossover so that he could...
Perfect. And frankly, that works with Greg Capullo as well. He's done his Wolverine.
That's it. You have Greg Capullo draw the Marvel one and Jim Lee draw the...
Perfect. No, Marvel really goes hard on the let Jim Lee draw ours. They're like, please. We miss you, Jim.
Come back, Jim.
No, I think that an anthology would be a lot more fun, like as a reader personally, because I think that an anthology not only means that you don't have to like limit yourself to 1 or 2 writers and artists, but it also means that you probably don't have to spend as much time worrying about like the plot, you know?
Yeah.
Because like maybe you have stories. One story in each of them. Like, the first story in the Marvel book is how it happens, and the last story in the DC book is how it resolves. But then you get to, like, really pair people up who get to have fun together. You know, you get to see all of the weird sides of what happens in
If it's an anthology, my guess will be that, unfortunately, then we won't get, like, a cool talent crossover. It'll be like, oh, in the Marvel book, Marvel talent will do,
I don't know. It might... But the characters will be in both.
Oh, the characters, yeah.
So-
I mean though, like I want maybe like the DC exclusive artist working with the Marvel exclusive writer. Like that's a fun,
That
that's
is fair.
fun
That would be
interplay.
really exciting.
Yeah, that's a fun interplay. But I feel like
Yeah.
I think that's what they did really like in the past crossover when they were doing like they'd be like, okay, here's the artist from DC and here's the writer from Marvel, so we each have somebody. Obviously,
Yeah.
back then they also had much stronger talent divides. Because
Exactly.
basically everybody was on an exclusive deal instead of nowadays it being like top talent is on an exclusive deal and then like everybody else is kind of just doing what they're doing.
Yeah. My worry is that
Tom Taylor could be on it too. The DC's been pushing him hard.
I want you to know, I was about to say, my worry is that they'll take some creators who are maybe bigger names, like Tom Taylor or Tom King, and like just kind of let them run wild. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like they haven't been performing to my personal likes lately, which is, obviously a concern with any, writer or artist. It's so subjective. But I feel like that's another good reason to go with an anthology.
This would like put it up as like I should really pull out my best work for.
I mean, you would think, but they're also probably going to have to deal with a lot of like
bullshit,
from editorial things, because both of them are going to want to make sure that you don't want Batman to lose to Cyclops, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or like Wolverine to lose to Starfire.
No, it wasn't there was a fight where they like go behind a bar so you can't see. It was Wolverine and somebody, and I can't remember who. I don't think it was Wolverine Batman, because I think Batman just won most of the fights that he was actually in. But there was one where they go behind a bar. They each get to
choose one person to only win fights.
Yeah. Well, the way that they did it in the very first crossover was people voted on who would win in like the single issue.
That's fun. That's cute.
Yeah, which did mean a lot of DC characters won at that point because
Yeah. And honestly, it might be switched around completely now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure Batman would still win whatever hell vote you put him in.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like, that man is not losing his fight, even if it is to Thor himself. But, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. Again, like, the Avengers Justice League crossover was such a shit show for so long as they tried to get that. So I wouldn't be shocked if these don't actually come out this year, unless they somehow waited until they already had them made to announce them, which I think would have been the smart thing. And maybe that is the case, because maybe like right when the like big crossover things came out is when they actually started on this, and that would be about a year ago, or at least like 6 months plus ago. So there's a chance these are at least already in progress, which would be the smart way to handle this.
And if it's anthologies, and so it's shorter stories with perhaps lower stakes, there might be less bullshit to wade through.
Yeah. Then it's just tell a good story, and we'll greenlight it. But I don't know. I'm very interested to see what this is going to be. I want more details on the format of it, the creative teams, all that stuff. The fact that we didn't get anything, even like a teaser, makes me think that this is not very far along. Yeah. But especially because like not even like none of the news sites had like the scoop on it either. Like none of them were. There was not Bleeding Cool being like, I heard this thing, and they usually do even if they don't have something, and they didn't hear, which makes me think there's nothing for them to even like try to latch onto. So, but I am certain that the second any details on this are announced, we will be talking about it on the podcast, because this is huge, so exciting. Huge stuff.
So exciting. Yeah. As a reminder, hit subscribe if you want to be kept in the loop with all this, and make sure that if this is your first time visiting the channel, you check out our main episode where we talk about our polls every week, and check out the rest of the content waiting for you. It's all here. Yeah. It's all waiting for you specifically.
And let us know down below in the comments about your thoughts on DC and Marvel finally crossing over again after 20 long years.
What do you think caused it? What do you think it's going to look like? And when do you think it's going to come out?
Yeah, because the answer is not 2025. Not coming out in time. But in any case, hopefully we'll see you whenever there is more breaking news. Comic Geeks.